the authors a question. They know who they are. These authors know who they are, but they don't know who they are. They will know who they are. How the heck do you kiss an MC with a skeleton face?
You don't.
Okay.
Well, you kind of do. The way Gooderich's skull face works, like the top half of his face is a skull, but like the underside is more fleshy. So the seam of the mouth.
Okay, so
There's
there's
a lot of tongue.
With a lot of tongue.
Okay. We kind of covered like the newer cozy vibe. I think we're seeing two. I'm gonna change this a little bit. We're seeing two versions in the horror, fantasy, romantasy genres, in that the cozy vibe is coming up, but also in that kind of your monsters or more monstrous on the other hand before they get redeemed. So what is the craft of, we said this, kind of, it was our first question, but how, what is the craft of deciding, if you're going to make it cozy, how do you make that decision? Why do you make that decision? Or if you're gonna go darker and scarier than anyone's ever gone before, how do you make that decision? So start from there.
So I don't do darker and scarier than I've ever been. So for coziness, for me, I think the way that you would craft coziness into a story is putting a spotlight on those quiet domestic moments. So even if you do have, an epic adventure, and then you might have very violent moments, you're still gonna maybe have that moment around the campsite where someone's darning socks, and then you're gonna put a spotlight on that. And what does that represent for the people who are there, the quiet conversation that they have? Because I did not think that Village of Virtues was terribly cozy, but then it came out and people were like, oh, it's so cozy. And I'm like, he's a blood mage, he's cutting into himself, there's blood everywhere. But it was just those quiet domestic moments around campfires and quiet little talks and then the cute little critters and things. So I think you just pick out certain moments and put a spotlight on them.
Well, Untethering Dark is probably my most equally balanced horror meets romance. Gooderich's stays pretty scary the whole way through. Look, like I said, couples who slay together stay together, so we gotta keep the romance alive. But for me, it's little details, like this fluffy, deer tail that he has, whenever he's excited or happy about something, it's just wag. A wagging tail goes for miles. There's also a scene at the end, because Astrid, she's trying to woo him, seduce him, he just loves cookies. He loves cookies, and she just makes him a variety of them. And there's a scene at the end where he's drinking from a little tiny teacup, and by drinking, his skull mouth is open. He's just dumping it in. It's just the little details, and I do that for myself because I can't stay in the dark places for very long, and I don't want to do that to my characters either. So I need a little bit of levity, a little bit of humor, as you were saying earlier, just to break up the darkness. Yeah.
I just have a few thoughts. Earlier I was talking to my friends and my partner, and one of them was saying that in monster romances, we, people of color, are the monsters. A lot of the historically, a lot of the conflict between a monster and a human is just oh, it's not really acceptable, this is a difference in culture almost. So it does have this coding of the monster is a person of color. And so I think as a Black woman, I've always identified more with the monsters in this kind of thing. So I don't think that I go very dark and horrific at all with my creatures. I like to show them as human and empathetic and warm, and I think that just comes from me always seeing them as me. But like they're also like the monsters and the humans, like they're all people of color in my books. So like they're all like literally people of color, unless they're not people. Like, and I think like, I don't know, I think right now I'm working on a vampire book, and I'm very excited to do like a traditional monster like a vampire. And what I've been enjoying with them is having like a found family vibe, and like having them like, you know, like warm up a mug of blood for the like, you know, the main character who's just become a vampire, and we're like, you know, things are gonna be all right. Like, you'll get used to killing people. It's gonna be fine. But yeah, I don't know. I think like there's like a complicated relationship that you have to monsters when you're a person of color, but I think a lot of us really love them and want to see them as not so horrific. So, but then again, like I think like I don't think that my books are very scary. I guess because
kept me up all night.
I didn't think that I was like really horror adjacent at all until editors started being like, oh, like I like this book, it scared me so bad, and I'm like, oh, it did? Like, I didn't find it very scary, but I guess like I was writing it, so I'm not really gonna like spook myself. But yeah, I guess like I don't think I'm doing anything terribly horrific, but like a reader may disagree. I don't know.
I'm not gonna go there. That's scary. Okay, yes.
I think I kind of want to go off of what Ashley was saying about finding those domestic moments that really make something cozy to focus on. But in addition to that, I would also like to add mundanity. In my Closet Cubicle series, in the first book, it's like this guy gets kind of casually fired in a pit of hell, like opens up and swallows him, and then people just kind of move on. He's like, whatever, someone got fired, it happens every day. And there's this sort of juxtaposition of the ridiculousness of these really grand and scary and terrifying moments, but we also couch them in the mundane of, yeah, I've seen that before, you know? And, you know, all right, I'm just gonna go to the water cooler now and get a cup of coffee or something.
Heard. Now, notice that I've given up like separating you guys as far as the answers go, and I think it works. Final, well, not the final, before we go into more of a speed round of questions and then over to you guys, how, your books read like movies, straight out, like people can see what's going on. They're going on the journey, they're in the mortuary, that, you know, like they're there. They're in the, you know, village's ritual space, you know, or forest, as the case may be. How do you create a visual read? Like, how do you paint a picture when you're writing? So, I don't know who wants to start. I'm staring. Okay.
My editor only used the 5 senses.
The objective answer.
For me, I think I'm a huge movie fan, and so I think, especially when you're doing anything horror adjacent or like paranormal, I don't know, for me like the best part is seeing it in your mind's eye. So when I draft, I tend to be really sparse on the first go around, where it's like mostly just dialogue and like blocking basically. But then like the really enjoyable part is going back through and being like, okay, what's going on? Like what are they feeling and seeing and sensing? But I love a good visual, especially when it's like decay or like blood, or like, I love that kind of, I guess like I know how I'm sounding, and I know that I said that I don't think I write this. I just love like really vivid visuals. I think like especially when it's gross. Like that's really fun to me. But I also love a really good visual of like a flustered love interest and things like that. So yeah, I don't know, I think like that's just the fun part for me. It's making it cinematic.
Ditto.
I was a film major in college, and so I do a lot of movie analysis, and one of the things that like I think you can kind of bring from film to the page is what details are we drawing our attention to? Are we punching in real close and looking at everyone's lips and just their eyes, or are we taking a step back and looking at the grander picture, like how tight is the frame? And what are the lighting changes? What are the weather changes? I know that's like so technical and like so like it's not romantic at all in the writing process, But I think when you move from wide to tight, you know, you get that kind of rush of focus from the reader, and I think that really makes a great move in the story.
And that's why it's craft.
Just to jump off of that, point of view helps too, regardless of whether you're writing first person or third person, or I guess even second, deciding who's actually seeing the thing that you're telling the reader that they're seeing also helps. So like you use the 5 senses, but whose senses are they? It's I would say usually the character who you really want the reader to connect with in that moment, and that kind of gives you that cinematic, they're the camera for the reader.
All right, now we're gonna go to kind of less deep and more fun. Start with, how about, guys, tell me your favorite non-traditional monsters. And this is completely your fault, and your fault.
Look, I love my vicious mermaid ladies.
Okay, mermaids. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. This is a surprise question, but it is your fault.
I would love to see a romance with a gelatinous cube, you know, Thank you.
Oh, that's good. Not exactly romance, but.
We're getting out of the territory.
A relationship with a last few.
Sounds like a chest tingle, honestly.
I'm having a hard time. Okay, so like I'm a huge Universal Monsters fan, so I'm having a hard time thinking of a non-traditional monster. I guess like the least traditional for like a romance would be one of my first crushes, the creature from the Black Lagoon. I would love to see more romances with, you know, Shape of Water, ape sapien, creature from the Black Lagoon type love interest. And one day I'll do it. But yeah, I think that's as non-traditional as I can get.
I mean, I guess
You don't have to have one, I promise. It's a surprise question.
I would say like maybe like angels and demons. I understand that plenty of people write books about them, but to put them in a more monstrous role and like a, you know, Abrahamic kind of evil role, I think would be pretty interesting. I not that it's not really that. Lots of people are doing it.
Would you shelve it in the Christian romance section?
I don't appreciate that. I was saying, I know the people who want Christian romance would want that.
All right, secret. I was once in a cab at a Polycon and trying to explain to the cab driver what we were doing, and they were missing church to be there, and they were kind of snotty. But they asked me, you know, and they were very religious. So like, what? Well, if you were to recommend something, what would you? And I was like, oh yeah, for you, Sarah smoked priest. And who knows? Who knows? Maybe we made it there. Okay, so back to the question that you know. So if you had a familiar, what type of creature or being would it be and why?
I am a really big fan of the fox familiar in Brandon Lee Mulligan's podcast, Worlds Beyond Measure. I think the campaign that one's in is the Witch, the Wizard, and the Wild One, I think. And the fox is very much he has such a Amelia Bedelia way of interpreting the things that people tell him to do, and I just kind of want that.
That's such a boring answer, but it would be my cat that I have right now. She is my familiar. She's basically just my clone in cat form. To the point where one of my friends is like, "That's just you. I don't believe that. Like when you send me pictures of her, that you're not just transforming." But yeah, she's just like she's a little like prissy and she's a little picky and she can be friendly when she wants. Like people come over, she comes up with her tail out like, "This is my house." But then if people reach for her or whatever, she's like, "Leave me alone." She's me.
So I was gonna say a fox too. And I still am. But this mischief. I would get in trouble with my familiar.
I would want a possum because they're crepuscular and they're super cute and everybody thinks that they're nasty and gross, but I think they're wonderful. Yeah, crepuscular. So they're like twilight critters. They come up like in Dawn and Dusk, which is when I also feel the most like sad. Yeah.
Now I'm I have an image of you with like 1,000 little children on your
Awesome children would be fine.
Right. What folklore, myth, or legend would you really love to center a book around? Let's start with you this time.
So my first self-published book was a Greek inspired story set in like fantastical ancient Greece. And I've always wanted to go back to that. I'd really like to do something with like the Cassandra myth, because I think we're all kind of probably feeling that. I told you this was going to happen, and no one was. So I'd like to go try to do something with that eventually.
I want to do Frau Perkta, who's kind of like a counterpart to Krampus, but people know about her over in like Austria and Germany, but we don't really talk about her in the States, and I just want to give that vicious lady some love.
It's not really, like, it's not myth, but I feel like I'd love to do a modern retelling of the Canterbury Tales. I think it'd just be a lot of fun.
And we understand it this time around.
Yeah.
There's this bit of Scottish folklore that says that if you throw a werewolf's clothes back at him, he'll turn back into a human. I thought that's such a rom-com moment. I want to write a whole book around that, but I haven't quite figured out where I want that to happen in the book. If it happens at the end or if it happens at the beginning.
It's a good one, though. I like that. All right. What book or story, not your own, do you really wish you'd been the one to write?
Literally any Tessa Dare book. Every time I pick up a Tessa Dare book, I put it down in 15 pages in because I'm like, I gotta go write something with this premise.
I have such a hard time with it. Like right now, I'm like, the Canterbury Tales. I don't know. Pass. I can't. Canterbury Tales.
Kimberly Lemming's Dino Planet books.
Oh, yeah.
I wish I could have written Equal Rights. I love Terry Pratchett, my absolute favorite author. I think the only thing that would make Equal Rights better is if a woman would have written it, but he did a very wonderful job.
And he was the kindest and most lovely soul.
Yes.
So, favorite, well, this is going to be hard for you. Favorite fantasy horror movie. So start from here.
So I don't know if this counts, but like Galaxy Quest is so
Oh.
silly. It's sci-fi, but like, I don't know, it's just done so well. Or Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Yeah.
I don't know, I also don't know if that counts as fancy, but yeah.
Make an exception.
Yeah.
You might be able to guess. Jurassic Park.
I was going to say Splash. But
Yeah, that's good.
I think favorite horrific horror, The Thing. Favorite funny horror, I just did a rewatch, Ginger Snaps.
I really love Nosferatu. I think like there's something about the distillation of the original Nosferatu, which was like a knockoff of Dracula, you know, like 100+ years ago. And the remake that I want to say Robert Eggers did for Studio A24 did such an absolute beautifully job. This is my cinema nerd coming out because there's like this German expressionism, like which is the genre that gave birth to horror, and these beautiful nods to like the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which is like the first German expressionist movement or movie. My gosh, and they do some really beautiful just visuals that call back to that.
Very cool. And before we throw it to the audience, I just want to ask everyone what you're reading right now, or what would you recommend our attendees read? So, who wants to start?
I can start. I just like a few months ago read The Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco, and it's so good. You should all read it right now. It's like, if you don't know, it's a murder mystery set in the 1400s in a monastery, and it's basically like it's like Sherlock and Watson, but they're like these like medieval monks. It's so long, but I was on the edge of my seat for so much of it. I was just taking notes all over the book, like, I don't know, I think it's this, like, this guy's so suspicious, but there's no way he could have like dragged that body. He's like 100 years old. So, like, yeah, it's so good. Please read it. It's so good.
Everyone's got answers.
Okay, I'll go next. If you like horror, romance, or cozy horror, Chomp Chomp by Azealia Crowley. If you've seen Teeth, that's all I'll say.
They just had Teeth on Broadway recently.
Oh.
Yeah, that would have been, yeah, I know. I could not convince my husband to go.
I recommend Tea Kingfisher to everyone, which I'm sure everybody here is familiar with. I would recommend A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking. Yes. Because I think it's very poignant right now, because she makes a really nice parallel to World War II, and it's from the point of view of a very young girl who has to go into hiding. So I would recommend everybody picking that up.
I just finished rereading Penny Reed's Winston Brothers book 3, Beard Science, which is she's just wonderful Cletus, yes, with he's a kind of busybody about town who's blackmailing everybody, but he gets blackmailed by the banana cake queen. That's just it's so good. The characters are so well thought out. It's just such a treat every time.
I love Cletus.
Oh my god, he's so funny with his like, I'm never gonna fall in love. I know exactly how my life is gonna play out, and then he gets knocked over
By the banana cake.
by the yes.
Okay, so audience, would anyone like to ask questions? Because otherwise I'll keep going, but.
I have a question for Kate. Would you ever write something based around like a somnambulist?
Oh my
repeat,
gosh,
please.
yes, that's such a good deep cut. I love that. Listen,
The question is, would she ever write something around the somnambulist? Sorry.
So the somnambulist is a character from Dr. Caligari's. He's a sort of central figure. He's known by being like all black except for the white face, and he falls asleep, or he's been asleep for many years, and he goes sleepwalking. And I really love that story, but I also don't know where the romance would come in. I think I would have to really noodle on it to like the moments where he's awake, you know? But that does sound like a really cool idea to pursue.
Yes.
Question for any and all. Which romance novels do you think influenced your understanding of romance as a genre the most? It doesn't have to be literal, like monster romance, but just your understanding of the romance novel.
For me, it's like everything by Stephanie Jenkins. She's just a black romance writer. She writes black romance, and I think she was like the person who made me realize you can do that. I didn't know you could write like black people in books, and that you could write black on black romance. So that was really formative for me. And yeah, I think she's like my big person when I think of like romance.
I think I know you said it didn't have to be monster romance, but I think what really, I don't know, I always liked paranormal romance, but like monster romance just takes it the extra step and like is really just like anything goes. I really liked Sing Me to Sleep by R.M. Virtues and also Veda Vice's work.
When I was in high school, middle school and high school, my best friend would read Christine Feehan books every day. And then she eventually just let me borrow one. And that, I think, was probably my basis of what a romance novel could be. And then built off of that, especially all of her like Transylvanian type stories. Yeah. Carpathian, that's it, yes. I was like, well, that word's not coming to me.
Questions? Yes, sir.
In the 80s, I was struck by David Cronenberg's remake of The Fly because, as being the gross out movie that it is, it has one of the best romances.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
So it made me think about what you guys are talking about. So when you go to write about your monster or your villain finding love, is it a redemptive thing, or like, I think what makes The Fly so much sadder is that you wish that their romance had continued. So how do you approach writing your villain? Do you want them to be redeemed by it, or do you want the person falling in love with them to understand this is a monster and this is what it's going to do? What attracts you to writing that story?
Great question.
I don't want anyone to be changed by the end. I want them to evolve into the best version of themselves, but the best version of themselves is not to fit a mold. It's to be more monstrous, to be more villainous. Like the characters on Tethering Dark, they're trying to save their forest from poachers. And so their methods are gruesome, but they are also doing it to protect like forest rangers that are trying to like get the situation under wraps. They're trying to protect like, you know, their friends, their found family. but they're doing it in the most like vicious way possible.
Your writing makes me think of Clive Barker because his villains always got more seductive, more beautiful, the more evil, and they believed what they were doing was right. And they're repulsive, but they get more seductive and beautiful from it.
I'm morally bankrupt, I just
I think there's Gwen Hayes' book, Romancing the Beat. She has this line where she says, the root of all romance is, and maybe that's not the quote, she says like the underpinning of all romance is that love always wins, love always conquers all. And I think to the end of the fly, that I'm with you until the part where you say how sad it leaves you, because I don't want my books to leave you in a sad place. I want you to believe that like love will conquer, love will prevail, you know? And I think it doesn't have to be redemptive, but it will, everybody gets to win at the end, is what I want to see.
I think that also why The Shape of Water was made, because it was Daniel Krauss, or was it Guillermo del Toro, who wanted the monster and the Black Lagoon to end up.
Yeah. So we're with him. Yeah. He's such a man after like my own heart. I think for me, I just really like grappling with the question of like, at what point have you like lost humanity? What does it mean to lose humanity? Can you lose humanity? And like, what makes you human? In like my upcoming book that's coming out in July, there's a ghost, and he can communicate somewhat with people, but only through like electrical things like speakers and stuff like that. But if he gets too emotional, things blow up, and the more emotional, the worse it is. And so I like dealing with his like interiority and his like thought process as to like, is it even okay for me to exist in this way? Am I just like, I'm just hurting the person who's trying to help me? I could like literally accidentally kill this person. And so like him reckoning with like, is my like existence even like right or worthwhile? I think it's really fun, and like it's corny, but I think like love being this like force that like makes you feel like I am human and I can deserve things. Like I think it's very beautiful. So.
Question, anybody? Quiet group. If you were to go home, oh yes, Mary.
Go ahead. I have a question. So I don't know if any of you have written dinosaur books, so I'm sorry. But I just finished reading Cassandra Gannon's 2 dinosaur books. One of them is an Allosaurus and the other one I think is a T-Rex. And I'm just wondering how you deal with the monster, or how you make it so the reader is not constantly thinking, physically, this is just not going to work. I would say that I loved both the stories. They're on Kindle Unlimited. I totally recommend them. But I had trouble. I mean, I did have trouble. It was like a mental thing. So how do you deal with that, with your skeletons, etc.?
Can I just say that was my question too? I read the dinosaur books, but I always wonder from The Shape of Water, like how did they?
Life finds a way.
Very bonus.
Yeah, I would say I focus a lot of time on emotions and like emotional connection, and I think that's how you forget. These are, even though one's human or humanoid and another is another species, you're focusing on the personhood or the humanity, and that's where you're creating a connection that makes readers say, of course they're together.
I think to some degree, the reader wondering, this can't possibly physically work out, like that's just not gonna happen. I think that creates this element of suspense for you that kind of gets you to that moment, and then of course love prevails.
And making those weird elements endearing also can help. Like we talked about tails earlier, you know, if someone's wagging their tail, it's cute, regardless of if you're like, oh, but it's very strange for a humanoid type person to have a tail.
Anybody? Yes.
So with monsters and creatures, there's obviously a lot of lore and reader expectations. So when you tackle like a mermaid or something like that, what do you decide? How do you decide what you're going to keep of like what's there and what version of the lore, and like, well, how do you decide what you're going to change or break and make it your own?
Well, I wanted them to collect all of the powers like Pokemon cards. Siren Song that can lure people to their doom. Short teeth, claws. They're bioluminescent, so it's, you know, like sparkly mermaids, but you want to get closer. But do you really? Yeah, I just whatever added to the vicious lore, I wanted it. But I should say that sirens and mermaids are different. I kind of matched them two together. So sirens and Greek mythology are more bird-like.
Bird women,
Yeah. So
I think for me, I just like, I do whatever the hell I want. I remember I like workshop something with a ghost once, and like somebody in the workshop was like, well, ghosts are supposed to be black and white. And I was like,
but why?
Ghosts are supposed to be whatever I say they are, actually. So yeah, I don't know. Like at the end of the day, I think you have to write for yourself, right? So you can't think too much like, is this original enough? Like, is it a good idea to include this lore? I mean, I like it, but like, just pick whatever you want, because you're going to be dealing with that book for a long time. You're going to be reading and rereading and rereading and writing and writing and writing and writing. So if you don't enjoy what you've made your creature out to be, then it's not going to be fun.
Any more questions? I'll end with, you go home tonight, and there's a monster in your bed. What is it?
You already know, it's the creature from the Black Lagoon.
I think I gotta go with gelatinous cube.
mer person?
Of course.
Well, maybe the bathtub. Yeah. Can't say.
I'm very one note, but it would be a demon.
You guys are consistent. You know what you like. I mean, we could do a show of hands who would go home to a mermaid or merman. All right.
No one, more for me.
Who would go home to a gelatinous cube? Who wants the demon? Oh, okay. And my final one was, the creature from the Black Lagoon. Oh, all right. So,
Honestly, why
this is a twisted ass story. We love you. Okay, so with that, I think, Nina, is there one more signing for them?
Yes, so, so it will be here for another half hour or so. If you want to get any books signed, talk to our authors. There's still a few authors upstairs. And just thank you so much for being here and spending the day with us and with this amazing panel of wonderful speakers. And Pam is one of my favorite people.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, she's stuck with me for the rest of her life. So
Yes.
But thank you so much. Your insight is really remarkable. Have a great day, everyone.